There is one really big reason why people tear when giving birth. And today I want to explain to you what that reason is and how you can avoid tearing at your birth. You don't want to worry about getting extra repair. You don't want it to be painful. Yes, a little bit of tearing is normal and natural and can actually heal on its own without stitches, but really deep, severe tears are something that isn't just a part of birth. It's something that you don't just have to accept it like, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. There's definitely things you can do. So, one of the reasons why people tear is because of fetal presentation. That is, which part of the baby is presenting at birth. For most babies, this is going to be their head. For some babies, if their breech, is going to be their butt or their foot. But for the most part, today we're going to be talking about head presentation. Now, it just is not their head, but it's the angle at which their head is coming out. So if you look at a baby that's just been born, they'll have kind of this cone shape. And that's because they've been squeezed through this canal. Now, they are built to be born with this top part of their head coming out first, because this is the narrowest part of their head. It's very soft up here. The bones of the skull can actually overlap and squeeze. So when they're being born, they're not being damaged. They can actually mold their head to the birth canal. But if they're being born with their brow presenting or their face presenting, or if they're a little crooked, this can present some obstacles. An OA baby is going to be head down with their face toward their parent. And in this position, they're able to tuck their chin and get the narrowest part of their head into the pelvis, engaged, and hopefully presenting first. But if they're in a position like OP, occiput posterior, it may be a little bit more difficult for them to get that narrow part of their head presenting first. And so they might end up presenting with the wider part of their head. And because this part is wider, this can lead to tearing. It's pretty much very simple. You want the narrowest part of your baby's head to come out first, so you can gradually allow the vulva and the perineum to open and stretch. But if you have the wider part of the baby's head presenting first, then you might end up tearing. This is also true when you have a baby that is presenting with their face, because again, this is not the narrowest part of the baby's head. So it's pretty simple. Now the question is, how do we ensure that the baby is in an optimal fetal position? How do we make sure that we get that narrow part of the baby's head presenting first? So there's a couple different factors. The first one is we have to think about gravity. So remember, your baby is floating in a bag of water and they don't have any handlebars in there. So gravity is going to affect them. If you, for instance, lay down on your back, then the heaviest part of their body is going to sink down and the lighter part of their body will be facing up. So if you're laying back in the bed, or if you're reclining in a chair, or if you're in a hospital bed and your bags of water are not broken, it's very easy based on gravity for your baby to flip and be facing up versus facing down, facing you. And I'll add some visuals in here so all of this makes sense. Now, if your baby flips up based on gravity, then what happens is we don't get the optimal fetal presentation, and that can lead to tearing. And I've actually seen this in real life. I've been at a labor where I'm telling the person, like, I think your baby is OP based on the contraction patterns and the pain that you're feeling in certain areas. And sure enough, as the baby is emerging, you've got the midwives calling out like, okay, OP. And I'm like, yep, definitely was OP throughout the labor. So first things first to remember is you want to work with gravity and not against it. That means during the end of your pregnancy, try to avoid reclining back in chairs. Try to avoid laying flat on your back for extended periods of time, because it's really easy for your baby to get nice and comfortable in that OP position, and that is not the position that we want for labor. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that OP babies aren't born without tearing. It is possible. It's just that the chances of you tearing do go up if your baby is OP. The chances of other things like back labor go up as well. So the other factor of getting your baby into a good fetal position is your muscles, your ligaments, your bones, basically your baby's home. And so you have to think, if the home is lopsided, the baby is gonna have to accommodate and be lopsided as well. So sometimes if there's a tight ligament in the pelvis on one side and a looser ligament on the other side, it creates imbalance in the pelvis. And this is gonna lead the baby to kind of be in a funky position to accommodate. Again, they're floating in a bag of water, so they can't like reposition themselves that well. So you need to check out spinningbabies.com. Gail Tooley has a whole website and training all about this subject. She looks at ligaments, tendons, muscles, bones, and how all of that works together to create balance or imbalance. And she uses technique to help create balance in the pelvis. She also talks about myofascial massage and release, and those things can also create balance. So definitely check her out so you can create the best balanced home for your baby. And if you're wondering what things can you do to completely avoid tearing, what things can you be proactive about today if you're pregnant, then check out that video that I've made, 5 tips on how to avoid tearing. All right, if this video was helpful for you, make sure that you hit that red button and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next video.